Hi everyone, welcome. We're streaming live on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Everywhere I think we're streaming. So awesome. Let me welcome you. And yes, for sure. Let me welcome you. So I hope you're doing well. And I'm just going to wait a minute because people jump on the stream. It takes time for people to jump on. And these are kind of impromptu streams that I do when I have the time to do them, when I have the moment. So if you have questions about Chinese medicine, this is the time when you can you can try to answer them. So you can ask the questions, and there might be something that you've been wanting to ask me for a while. And we can have like a bit of a chit chat back and forward if that's suitable for you, if your question warrants that. And yeah, otherwise I'll go to some questions. I've got a few that I need to answer from the channel as well. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great day, and just checking that microphone's loud enough. And yeah, I hope you're doing well. It's just coming into springtime for me in Perth, Western Australia, which means it's this change of season. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that. It's normal, what's normal in the change of season, because we have all these expectations, I think sometimes, well, certainly before I just need to, whoops, I don't want to do that. I just need to change something on my settings on my computer quickly while I'm doing this. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. Let me just see if I can. I don't know if I can fix this now. Let's see if we can. Just very quickly see if I can do this. Yeah, so while you're waiting, people, comments good. Okay, Bill C. Oh, how are you going? I hope you're doing well. Notice that you have a lot of questions about Chinese medicine, which is great. It's really good to see that people have a keen interest in it, and kind of yeah, knowing about it. I don't think I can change this now, can I? There we go. All right, we're good to go. There's always these technical things. Is diabetes an earthy disease? What do you mean by that? Do you mean it belongs to the earth element, like the spleen and stomach? Earth, as in earth. So maybe you can elaborate on that if that makes sense. You mean like as in it belongs to the earth element. So you think about things in a 5-element sense. So here's me little. Here's my little 5-element thing. I think it was you that asked the question, and what I did is I went and filmed the answer straight away about the sequences. I think it was your question that was about the cycles. So for people who can't see, the Instagram one's just there. And then I haven't had time to edit it properly. I've just been really busy. So that's unfortunate thing that happens sometimes. Like what's good is that I've got the stuff recorded, and then I can edit it later and publish. So I will be publishing it. That's what I'm saying. So I will use this now because it's kind of handy to have that. I don't know whether we can. I just have to put it in the screen like that. So one thing with the elements, with the 5 elements, is there are things that are, you asked about the cosmological cycle. So this is kind of the generation cycle, like going around and these are the different cycles that I kind of talked about in that video that you haven't seen yet. But the thing with Chinese medicine in the 5 elements is something can belong to one element, as in it's predominant in that element, but each element is looked after by another. So it's generated by another. So for instance, you've got earth is generated by fire. Fire is controlled by wood. At the same time, earth is generating metal and earth is controlling water. So it's never like one thing in isolation, let's say. So diabetes, it's kind of similar to, I could sort of talk a little bit about that as a proper whole video, let's say. what commonly can happen is you can see, certainly it in a way, because you're thinking, okay, the pancreas in Chinese medicine probably belongs to the spleen like system, which is an earth system, and it is a breakdown of that. But what's causing that to break down, as in not break down like literally disintegrate your pancreas, but what's causing that to lose its function could be something else within the elements as well. It's not just that, like, why is that element suffering is what you can think. But often with diabetes, especially like type 2 diabetes, where people get it from like lifestyle and like, so basically being overweight and caused by diet, like, you know, eating too much fats and sugars and things like that, and then getting overweight, and it's obviously the sugar. One way of thinking about it could be that you're just simply overworking your earth by making it digest all this stuff. And that's one of the things that happens with like just lifestyle factors is you're in Chinese medicine, there's this idea that a human being should live 100 healthy years, right? And so if you're going to live 100 healthy years, well, there's this idea of that you've got to conserve the energy. Everything takes up energy. Everything that you do takes up energy. Everything takes up, whether you think of that as qi or you think of that as yang, it's kind of the same idea, the same thing. So how do you be healthier? How do you conserve this energy? Well, by one is just not requiring that of your body. And one of the things that happens with like Western lifestyle is it's an excessive, everything's excessive. Like we don't live in a society where I'm just going to get on this Instagram thing. I've never done an Instagram live before. People can jump on the stream as well on Instagram live. So if you're not on my Instagram, it's just Chinese Medicine Podcast, same as the YouTube channel. So yeah, you can actually get in the stream. You can jump in as a video, start chatting away if I let you. So if you want to, you can ask a question that way or have a chat about Chinese medicine that way. It's just say hi. Yeah, so what can happen with lifestyle factors generally is it's just an overworking of everything. Like everything's being overworked. So it might not necessarily with diabetes, it could be sugar, but for some people what gets them overweight and then gets them into that cycle of like being really hard to lose weight is an overworking of just simply overeating anything, like overeating foods, right? Yeah, so it's not an easy situation to get people out of once you're at that point with just lifestyle and diet. So you kind of need medicine at that point. So there's an idea in Chinese medicine where if like you should first try to use lifestyle and diet, and if that doesn't work, then you use medicine, right? And when they say medicine, they mean like herbs or acupuncture. So, and we can also include like Western medicine in that. Like, so there's some things where like lifestyle and diet interventions only kind of works when you don't have a huge amount of stuff going on in terms of a pathology now. Like you've just got an imbalance where Chinese medicine would like be able to intervene in that way. Then, which kind of brings me to one of the points I wanted to make on this stream. I'm launching a new course, and that's why I've been so busy, because I've been working on it. I've been working in the background like a little mouse working on something. And I've been really thinking about what do I want to do next, and like, do I want to write a book? Like, I probably will write a book, but I like teaching. I like the application of teaching. And I've been thinking about how I can help people. Like, I've been getting to know a lot of people through my channel and how I can help people all over the world. And there's a few things that have happened. Obviously, the virus has happened and that's changed the world. But it's also made me realize that there's a whole bunch of people out there that watch the channel, that listen to the podcast, that are so interested in helping themselves and learning about Chinese medicine, but you might not be ready to do a course in Chinese medicine. But there's nothing really out there to kind of teach you that. There's nothing out there that says, okay, you're basically either going to get really invested in things like this, like YouTubes and things like that, and read the books and things like that. But there's no course to guide you or teacher to kind of guide you in that. If you're going to get a teacher, it's about, okay, I'm going to be a practitioner. But what about the in-between there? What about like if you don't want to be a practitioner or you're not sure, like I know in the US it's about 100 grand to be a practitioner, and in Australia it's somewhere like 60 grand to do a 4-year degree, and it's a big investment, isn't it? It's a big investment just to go, right, I'm going to do this. And through my teaching experience, I've taught at lots of different colleges. I've taught at some colleges which the college I teach now is like a formal degree, but I've taught at TAFE before, which is in Australia. It's like a technical college, let's say, like a college which teaches people to do these lifestyle courses that they just want to learn about something for themselves. And that was a long time ago. I developed a course about foundations of Chinese medicine and was teaching people the stuff I'm going to teach in this course that I'm making now. So at the end of this stream, I'll put a link to that course. And if you're interested in finding out, excuse me, more about it, you can jump on that link and have it and check it out. So it's going to be there'll be 3 parts over 1 year, and it'll just be a 3-hour thing every week for 12 weeks, then a break, and then 12 weeks, and then a break. So there's various reasons why I've decided to do it like that. One is because repetitious learning is one of the best ways to learn. So it's no pressure to learn it. Like you're learning it for yourself. You're learning it to kind of be knowledgeable about the world. There's no exams or tests or anything like that. I mean, if you wanted a test or an exam, I could probably give you one, but you don't need to think about, oh, this is going to be super stressful because I'm going to have to invest all this time in memorization and things like that of Chinese medicine. You'll probably just learn it because you find it interesting and you want to learn it. I'm just going to bring this microphone a little bit closer. So certainly, guys, ask your questions if you want to. I don't want to just ramble on. If people have questions to ask, now's the time to ask them. Feel free to ask your questions. And the timing of the course. So there'll be different. I'll run it twice a week. So there'll be sessions where it'll hit you if you're in the USA or if you're in the UK around Sunday afternoon, your time. But the USA people will also have the option to do it in a Sunday morning because it kind of makes sense then. I live on the other side of the world, the smallest place in the world almost. Awesome, Michael, I've got a question from you. And I've got a question from Nicholas. So we're going to answer those ones. So Michael asks, are there any tonic herbs that come close to replenishing prenatal Jing? Can it be replenished at all with herbs? Yep. So this is the golden question, right? It's a really good question. And Nicholas, I'll definitely answer your question. So if you guys have to go off the stream or something, I'll still answer the question and you can come back and watch it later on. That's fine. I'll just keep talking as I do, I'm having my morning coffee. So what I was talking about before, I don't know if you just jumped on, Michael, but about the idea of living a healthy, so the prenatal Jing, let's just talk about that for a minute. The postnatal Jing and prenatal Jing, right? So obviously you know about these things if you know what prenatal Jing is. So the first way to come at this problem is to think your body will only be using that prenatal Jing or the storage of, even if you don't think about that. So this is a very TCM concept. It's not a very common concept in classical Chinese medicine. Like, they don't talk about Jing. They just talk about Yang deficiency. It doesn't really matter, actually, either way. It's the same idea, and treating this stuff with with herbs or diet or whatever is the same idea, right? So the first thing you have to do is make sure you're not wasting your essence or wasting your yang by preserving that. So let's say your prenatal Jing is like only going to be used if you can't keep that postnatal Jing replenished, let's say, right? But you will use your prenatal Jing, otherwise you just live forever. Like, it's just a small amount. Think of it as the sands to the hourglass, like the days of our lives, right? if you're old enough to remember that. you know, you turn the hourglass over and it's slowly dripping down these things. Now, what can make it go faster is these taxation of lifestyle factors. So that's a very classical Chinese medicine kind of idea, right? So like, you know, taxation, that word, but it's really just like the things that, you know, depletes your Jing: excessive sex, excessive, like not sleeping well, not having a healthy diet, like, you know, everything, right? So you have to kind of live a very sage-like life. Now, I've got some books here somewhere in the book pile about longevity practices. Where are they? This is a really good little book that I found in China once. It's a real little book. There might be a little bit in this one, this balanced, healthy, the Tao of healthy diet. But there is this, I've got this little book, I'll have to look for it somewhere. It's just a longevity book. So many books here. Anyway, I can't, oh, hang on, is that it there? No, that's something else. Anyway, I've got a lot of bazillions of books down there. So, I'll keep banging the thing. So Nicholas mentions wild cordyceps, right? And that's true, like as in that's a possibility. Like you can use these supplemental herbs. But before you bother to do that, now I don't know your situation, like maybe you are very monk-like and healthy and you're just living the healthiest life you possibly can. But you can kind of waste a lot of money thinking I'm going to eat this product and my dreams will come true. I'm going to eat this product and my Jing will be replenished, because it's not always the case. It's not the way. And it's a very Western idea to look for this thing, right? You know, you see this on the internet all the time. Oh, this one weird trick's going to solve your problem, make you lose weight, do this, da-da-da-da-da. So certainly what I would focus on at the start is being being regulatory, like being regular, as in your sleep, like get your sleep as perfect and as good as you can. That would be the first thing, because that is what replenishes. That's what, and when you do then take these supplements or these substances, these herbs, then your body starts to utilize them better. Okay. So there's some of those things. And the more I kind of look into this idea, sometimes I think supplements are just as useful. They have their place as Chinese herbs do when we're talking about this. So there's kind of very broadly like two ways to use Chinese herbs, right? You can use them like this guy's saying here, or this girl's saying here. I'm not sure if you're a guy or a girl, Nicholas. I think it's a guy, because it could be, but that could be a girl's name as well. Wild cordyceps, right? So that's a product, like a one thing. And you also have these other things, like somewhere I've got those little mushroom ball things. Where is it? I might eat some of these things. I'm not sponsored by this. I'm not sponsored by this channel, although they have sponsored a couple of videos and sent me some products. Empirical Health. But what they do is they make these. So this is lion's mane, which is the example of this is like, okay, there's the herbs kind of. I'm going to see them there if I get my face out of the thing. There you go. Right. So what these are is these mushroom products ground up and then mixed with honey. That's not really Chinese medicine, as in it's not a herbal formula that's designed for you. So the first way of replenishing your Jing, as we're answering this question, would be to, one, look at all your diet and lifestyle factors and make sure those things are working as best as you can. Now, the other side of it is happiness, right? If you are living a monk-like life, let's say, you're being incredibly healthy as you possibly can, and then, but you just don't enjoy your life at all. You lose your friends because, you know, no one wants to hang out with you anymore because you're just no fun. I'm not saying you have to be a party person or anything, But there's got to be a balance there. And I think mental health is a big part of this whole thing. And that's why reason why I love Chinese medicine, because it's so balanced, right? It's such a balanced idea. And this idea, Jason, you're totally right. Don't drink cold water and eat salad, for sure. Like, avoid those cold things. Like, when I say get your diet and lifestyle right, I mean, oh, sorry, just getting an itchy nose for some reason. Get that right. Anyway, so yeah, I think a couple of supplemental products you could think about is all those mushroom products, so the lion's mane and the cordyceps and all those kinds of things. Those are all good. But on the other hand, what you have to be very careful of, like super careful of, is, oh, my nose is so itchy. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because it's springtime here. One of the things you have to be super careful of is overtaking these products into your body, because then you're hurting your spleen and stomach by making it digest stuff that it doesn't otherwise need. And this is where it can become hard, because how do we know how much we should have, right? And there's always this idea of like, well, if I just have more, surely that's going to be better for me. So if you haven't already gone, like maybe not you, Michael, but other people watching this, if you haven't already gone to a Chinese herbalist or an acupuncturist and you haven't gotten like your basic physiology kind of sorted out yet, then that would be a good place to start. Because sometimes it's like there's this idea, Jason, you're exactly right, that if your body is in a state of being deficient, like purely deficient, then tonification's the right thing to do. But if your body has, I just did a video on Shaoyang pathologies on this channel, and if it has one of those pathologies, then it might be deficient inside, but it's also got this congestion and it can't absorb the herbs properly. Like even when we try to use tonification herbs, very hard to absorb those herbs in your body. So that's the conundrum, right? So what can happen is you just either you're wasting a lot of money or you're not absorbing these nutrients. So it could be possible to, if you're really into this sort of stuff, is what could be a way around this. And this is not purely a Chinese medicine way. One way would be to have your pulse checked regularly. So you'd be checking how's that going, and also monitoring the symptoms. So if you had symptoms and then those symptoms are getting less, well, then those problems are kind of working. Yeah, if people are going to be rude on the channel, we're going to be blocking you. So don't be doing that. Not sure how to do that. This is the first time I've ever had someone with these rude things going on. Holy shit. I don't know what to do now. Anyway, we'll just ignore this guy and I'll try to block you somehow. I'm using a different program to run the stream. So that would be the answer to the question. So there are some of those things, but if you're taking some of that stuff, the other thing I was thinking of, I just got sidetracked with some rude comments popped up on the, on the YouTube thing, that you could have a blood test and check like periodically how are things going. So like you're not using these supplements and these things to necessarily, I want to raise my testosterone levels if they were low, or I want to lower my testosterone levels are too high, let's say, for instance, taking one parameter. But if your body's getting into balance, those hormonal levels should be regular. Like those things should be getting better. They should be coming back into normal levels. So that's one way to kind of check things. And also you'd be able to keep an eye on your liver levels so that you're not, taking supplements and things that are supposedly tonifying your jing and all this, but you're actually making a detriment to your body. So how would you know that in Western medicine? Well, your liver's enzymes are going to be really high and you might indicate that you've got an issue. Now, if you're not having any other interventions, like you're not having any other Western medications in that period of time, or, other things that have happened or illnesses, then that can kind of explain it. So just kind of that might just outline for some people about how to go about this monitoring of this self-treatment. And there's some way you can kind of do this along the course of, like, you should have a practitioner to help you, but sometimes you're in a position where you don't have one. And so you can utilize, okay, I'm going to do this for a period of time. I might do these protocols for like 3 months, and then I'll go back and see my herbalist or my acupuncturist and get my pulse checked, or go back to my GP, my doctor, or some acupuncturists in the US, I think, can do these blood tests as well, and check those things and be able to monitor that, and you'll be able to see how that's going, right? But if you have symptoms, then that's kind of what you're maybe noticing. Okay. Good. Well, this is obviously a good time because there's lots of questions coming in. So, okay, Nicholas, thank you so much for your question. And sorry, it took a little while to, I don't know what the laughing was for. But yes, so I'll go back to this. Okay, so we'll come back to that one. Right. So we'll answer your question, Nicholas. I love your channel. Okay, that's good. You're off to a good start. God, I got someone complain the other day. So I don't think I could help them. They said, "Oh, you're so terrible," and all this stuff, and like, I just want to get better. And they said, "Oh, maybe you need to make a plan when you make a video." I was like, "What's a plan?" I don't make a plan. I just talk, and then I edit out the bad bits, hopefully. But anyway, I do plan in my mind, but I don't plan step by step everything I'm going to say. I just wouldn't be able to get the content out. I wouldn't be able to get everything. I wouldn't be able to get everything done in my life. Anyway, so how did I get into classical Chinese medicine? Is there an Aussie course you took? Whereabouts are you, Nicholas? Are you in Melbourne, Sydney? Don't say you're number 1 Smith Street or anything like that. Queensland, right? Okay, so a couple of things. Yes, so this is how I got into classical Chinese medicine. So I started studying normal Chinese medicine, and my main teacher, Wade James, he has been a great mentor for me the whole time I've been practicing. So when I first graduated in Chinese medicine, I used to go to his clinic and work there once a week for like 9 years. And I loved that. That was the hardest job I've ever left, because my own business was getting busier, and it was a long way for me to travel. It was like a long way in Perth is half an hour. It was actually 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Really, I had to allow an hour to get there anyway. So at one point I had to say, look, I can't come in anymore. I'm just going to have to focus on my own business, my own practice, and all that sort of stuff, right? But I just used to love going there. And what I always noticed about Wade was he was always looking for a better way. He was always looking for the better, for the next, not the next thing as in chasing the snuggie, like, oh, this is the next thing. But he was always looking for a better way of explaining. And he's been the only teacher I've ever had up to the point where I studied classical Chinese medicine that would actually explain the concepts of Chinese medicine in a way, maybe because he was first an engineer. He just had a really great way of explaining Chinese medicine. He would really think things through. And I'm so grateful to have had a teacher like that, because he's really helped kind of, maybe that's why I'm a good teacher, because, you know, I've had that training, I guess. And it just in the way of, like, he would teach us how to think about things in Chinese medicine. Anyway, this is a long-winded answer to your question, but I hope it's getting there. So basically he would do all these different, he was always going to China, like, to study Chinese medicine. He would go to these hospitals. He would spend so much money and time on this stuff. And he was looking for, always looking for a better way, I guess. And he came across through one of his students, I think, like, because he had many, many students. I was one of his first students at the college, and we all kind of did the same kind of style of Chinese medicine. And then he had found this. He found Arno of the Sluice, who teaches the course that I did, ICAAM. People say that's ice cream. Oh, did you do the old ice cream course? That's what my friend in Brisbane keeps telling me. She's like, ice cream? I said, no, it's not about ice cream. It's just it's about herbs. It's like the opposite of ice cream. She's a herbalist as well, or an acupuncturist. But anyway, so he did this course, and he didn't really, because I wasn't really working at his clinic for then, so I wasn't sort of keeping in that much contact with him all those years, like, you know, as in I wasn't seeing him that regularly. But then one day he said to me, he goes, look, Marie, I've done this I've done this training and it's changed the way I practice. It's completely different. I practice a completely different way. And he goes, when Arno comes to Perth again, or not comes to Perth, sorry, comes to Australia again, you've got to do this course. And he's like, and then he messaged me, or emailed me saying, oh, Arno's going to come and do the course again. You need to sign up, and sent me this link to this website, which was like his old website. And Wade had made it sound like, the course is going to fill up and you'll only take a certain amount of people and you've got to hurry and like, don't miss out. And, because it so revolutionized his practice. And that's how I got into it, because I thought if someone like that, who's already been doing Chinese medicine, like when he was teaching me, he'd done Chinese medicine for 20 years. So this is like another 10 years on. So 30, if someone could have practiced TCM for 30 years or 40 years, and then change their whole ways, because that's what the course does, the classical course, but particularly for herbs. It changes all the way that you think, but it just changes style of herbs that you use and all the different kind of herbs that you prescribe and the way that you do it. And like, this is the only course that is foundationally pulse and herbs. Like, you check a pulse and then, the herbs follow on from that. Like, so that's how I did it. So the course I did was called it's got a long-winded name as well, a diplomat in canonical Chinese medicine, or canonical, I don't know where my diploma is. I'll put it on the ground here somewhere. What was it called? Diplomat in canonical Chinese medicine. That's what I did. There you go. I'm certified. I just had to move my stuff because I was making a stream yesterday and I had something else in that spot where I keep the degree. Anyway, so that's the course that I did. Now, it's a 3-year course to do the Shanghanlun system, and then you do the Jingwei Yaolui system. So one system deals, and people get like, I'm not sure, Nicholas, if you are a TCM practitioner already now, or maybe you are the Xiao. Okay, I've just scrolled down here, blew my mind with the chronic Xiao Yang video and using Xiao Chai Tang. Right, so are you already a TCM practitioner, or you're studying Chinese medicine? I think you might be a student. I think you might be the person that came to the course, maybe even. Are you? Don't know. So yeah, it blew my mind as well. Like, there was stuff when I started doing this course. So I basically enrolled in it because Wade told me, you got to do it when it happens. And at the time I was thinking, whoa, this is a lot of money. I honestly was probably in this state of being not that interested in Chinese medicine. I certainly wasn't as interested in it as I am now, right? Naturopath using patent Chinese patent medicine, right? So, yeah, it's what it does, what this idea of, I don't know how to explain it. I could probably spend hours just telling you about how great the course is and how great that is. But at the time when I did it, I'd kind of lost the passion for Chinese medicine a little bit. Like, your momentum just dies down a little bit as time goes on. And so a few things I found which was great out of the course. One was I met a lot of new people. I met a lot of people who were very passionate about Chinese medicine. And one of the things I hate about Chinese medicine is in our community is there's a lot of people fighting and saying, oh, my system's better than your system, and my teacher's better than your teacher. My style's the best style. And like, there's a lot of that. And there's I wonder, like, there's so many associations in Australia and people tend to hate on each other more than they need to, I think, sometimes. Like, there's a lot of camaraderie and that as well. But I don't know, I've always not liked, I guess I just ignored it at the start and I didn't really realize it. And then after a while, I was like, come on, guys. And anyway, when I started doing this course in ICIM, I just met a whole bunch of, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what I was thinking, the Kung Fu schools. It's like when you're in, those old Jet Li movies where he's like, my master's better than your master. And there's these two rival gangs, and then the masters come out and they're like telling the students off to like stop fighting, because that's not what it's about. And the two groups of students are trying to like incite a fight because they just want to fight. And they're, the young trainees of the Kung Fu masters, and then the masters are like, stop fighting. We need someone to come in and say, stop fighting amongst yourselves, right? So yeah, I found a lot of good quality people that were really interested in, and I think it's probably you're united by the same thing, right? And so there's a seeking of the same kind of thing. And the second thing was, it just made sense to me, and also made sense in the sense that I was like, this is what I thought I was learning in Chinese medicine school. Like, so you're taught in Chinese medicine school, in TCM school, you don't treat the illness, you treat the person. You're taught that. This idea, right? That's what Chinese medicine's about. But when you get into the herbs and you're looking at herbs, and then you're basically saying, well, this formula can treat hypertension. This formula can treat irritable bowel syndrome. Probably not in that way, but or hormonal issues. This formula can, like, and you start thinking about, Ningdongwei can help high estrogen or low estrogen, or these kinds of claims or things, ways of thinking. That's nonsense. It's not what Chinese medicine's about. Now, those herbs might have those functions, but that's not how Chinese medicine's supposed to be about. And it's also like another good way of thinking of it would be like, I've got a sore throat, so therefore I'm going to take like yin chao san, would be a very common sore throat formula. And I used to live on yin chao san when I was younger, if I got a sore throat, because I'm a singer, and I would be like, oh no, I'm getting a sore throat, I better bang on with some yin chao san, because it works, it helps, right? And the sore throat goes away. But how that formula is actually working is more attacking the pathogen that's there, not raising your body's function to make it fight what's going on. And that's probably what blew your mind when I was talking about the Xiao Chai Hu Tang is, I'm not sure exactly. I was just using that as an example because it's such a wide, broad formula for doing all these kinds of things. Lots of people joining on the Instagram live as well, which is great. It's a functional formula. So what it's doing is it's raising your body's function, that Xiao Chai Hu Tang, or most of these formulas are doing that, and then your body is doing the work to push out the pathogen, let's say. So now if I get sick, for me, I would never take these cold clearing heat types of herbs anymore. Like I haven't taken any of those herbs for like probably four or 5 years since I've been doing this classical stuff. So I started doing that around 2016, I think I started. So I had to go to Sydney from Perth three times a year for 3 years. And thank God it was before the virus, like, because I just, I'm so glad I've done it. And also then we have pulse diagnosis clinics, which is such a shame we can't kind of do those because of it's just hard to travel. You can't travel now. I live in Perth. We can't leave. I'm basically locked up here like a prisoner in my own state. I just can't leave. It's so annoying. So yeah, so that hopefully that answers your question about what's the classical Chinese herbs system and how did I get into it, and could I recommend any books on the subject. So Nicholas, you said you're a naturopath using patent Chinese medicine. I'm not going to hate on you or anything like that, because you're here and you're interested in learning Chinese medicine. But yeah, the way that naturopaths use Chinese medicine, it does work, because otherwise why would people keep on giving those formulas out, right? They give the formulas out because some effect happens. But that's not really Chinese medicine. So it's not, and even some Chinese herbalists practice like that as well. They think, I can see 5 signs of liver qi stagnation, so I'll give out, Xiao Yao San, or what's that other one? I forget these formulas now that I don't use them. The the heat clearing xiaoyasan, zhiwei xiaoyasan, or something like that. It does have an effect, but it's not actually getting to the root of the problem. Now, the third thing that Chinese herbs do in a classical sense that Western herbs don't, or not Western herbs, but TCM herbs don't really do, is classical Chinese herbs use a lot more yang tonic herbs. And that would be the person who asked before, Bill C, about the Jing. That is how we would tonify the Jing, through these incredibly warming yang tonic herbs. And now those herbs can be quite dangerous if you don't use them properly. I'm not going to talk too much about those on this channel, on the YouTube, but you need to see a herbalist. Like, there's no way you can prescribe them by yourself. Like, you just need a herbalist to prescribe it to you, because you need to, one, be ready. Your body has to be ready to take those herbs. You need to be under the direction of a herbalist, and they're also, you can't get them unless you see a herbalist. Like, yeah. So that's the ultimate tonification, I guess, in that way. So how TCM sees tonification, often they think, well, your yang's depleted, but your yin's also depleted. So they're using like these gluggy tonic, like, for instance, one of those common herbs would be, where is it? Maidong. I don't want to sound rude, but it is a thing. So there's a Maidong herb, right? Now that's still used in classical Chinese medicine, but we don't use it that often. Like, I very rarely kind of use this herb. So I always joke around with this with my students, because it's a good one to taste, because it tastes just bland. You can just kind of chew it. It's like it could be just a little snack. Maidong snacks. I don't know why that has never taken off as a thing. Because it's probably, maybe that's what Simon needs to make for his next pills, like Maidong snacks. Okay, so I've got a few more questions here. Right. Yeah, so the golden pill concept, yep. And these are just comments, I think. Yes, definitely, Jason. You have a lot of knowledge of Chinese medicine, and I appreciate reading your comments on the channel regularly. So Bill C asks, what type of therapy to not tonify? Oh, you're doing tonify. Tonify, sedate, purging, like old herbs. Not sure what that is. We'll come back to that. Maybe you need to clarify your question a bit more. Maybe it was relating to the other thing. I'm not sure. What herbs are good for low iron? So Ningdongwei is a really good blood tonic herb. Now, I have to preface this in saying, well, look, low iron isn't necessarily blood deficiency. Oh, this was a big sound. Outside, there's some construction going on outside my place at the moment, and there's like a big sound. Anyway, so it's not always, and it's not one in the same, and you have to be careful that you don't mix that up. But having said that, many people, not all, but many who are iron deficient are blood deficient. So one is, we don't use Chinese herbs by saying, oh, this herb's got a lot of iron, you should take this herb to supplement your iron. We don't do that. If that's what you want to do, go and get foods, right? So go and get high. Firstly, you need lots of leafy green vegetables. Like, you just need at least a serve of those a day, if not 2 serves a day of like leafy green vegetables. Now, if you're in spring, summer, you could have salads. If you're very, very deficient and you've got a lot of diarrhea or loose bowels, probably stay away from salads by themselves, but you could have salad with some cooked foods. And the meat thing is another one. You might be a vegan or a vegetarian. That might be how you got here. But if you're not, then bone broth would be the next thing. So these are things I recommend to my patients. And low iron is a thing where you could have 2 things. You could have 3 things. Let's go. You could either be losing a lot of blood, and for women that would be your cycle. For it could have happened because you had an accident, or you had something traumatic thing, a surgery or something, or a childbirth. That's happened. It's been and gone, but you're still suffering the consequences of it now. If you're losing blood continuously, more blood than you need to, then you need to sort that out. And so that would be either acupuncture or herbs. And there's lots of herbal formulas that can kind of stop bleeding. And one of the common herbs we use that does that is urgeao, which is the donkey hide gelatin. Now, this is where the bone broth kind of comes into it, because donkey hide gelatin in Chinese medicine is like one of the ultimate blood tonic herbs. Now, even in my clinic, I don't use the donkey hide gelatin anymore because of the cruelty to the donkeys. I just use bovine, which is beef gelatin, and we get that and we use that instead. Now, I found that in my practice to be just as effective. I've had some patients with, like, when we in formula, so we wouldn't just use it by itself, just by the way, it's within a formula. And so in that formula, it's kind of stopping the bleeding, but it's how it's stopping the bleeding is this sweet tonification. That's what the nature of urgeao or the gelatin is. So you can kind of supplement that in your diet with a really high quality bone broth. So when you cook the bone broth, it's got to be gelatinous. Now, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, then I don't know what we could do there in that case, except for the highest quality. Like, you can still get iron from these other things, but if you were losing blood and your body needed that tonification, I don't know what other things we could use to tonify you that wasn't that substance. Very hard. It's one of these conundrums where in Chinese herbal medicine, like, I kind of stick to the classics of, well, this is what you need, and I'll just have to sell the patient, look, either you take it or I can't help you. In some cases, it gets to that point, right? Now, Ningdongwei is another herb that's good. Now, let me see if I got Ningdongwei here, and there's another one I'm going to mention here too. Oh, there it is. Oh, come on. Come to me, baby. This one. So this herb, believe it or not, is actually shangdi. Now, if you're a herbalist watching this, you'd be like, oh, what the fuck? Shangdi, why isn't it black? This is really, you can actually eat this herb. I've put it in foods. It tastes like a parsnip kind of taste. Now, where's the real shang? The old. So this is when you buy Chinese herbs from just the stock standard Chinese herbal, you know, the food shops. Like, you can see shangdi sometimes there, or shudi. So Romania is the herb. I don't know if I can get this lid off. And you can see that this is not, let's put it right up to the camera there. It's not totally black. It's got some like brownness on it. So this is for the Instagram people. So that's the shangdi, but the shudi is like black and tarry. The same thing, but just dried. So this is supposed to be fresh Romania. Now, I get this from Empirical Health in Australia, which is like a Spring Wind brand, I think. Wow, the smell is so strong. So this is the shangdi. I'll put some here for the Instagram people. This is fresh. And you can't just like eat this because it's so hard, but you can soak this and eat it. Now, this is a blood tonic herb. So I'm not saying it can help with your iron, but it can tonify blood. And that would be the way you would think about it. Most people who are blood deficient, most people who are iron deficient. Like, if you're blood deficient, you're not necessarily iron deficient, but most people who are iron deficient have a blood deficiency issue or could do with some tonification of blood. So that's one thing. Now, the Ningdongwei is the first one. Where's my Ningdongwei? Might be here somewhere. Might not be here. Might have moved it somewhere else. The Ningdongwei probably is in the kitchen, actually. You can put that in soups. You can put all of these, you can put both of these things in soups. If you buy this shangdi, and that's how it comes, and it's very black and dark like that, that's fine. It's still okay to use it, but your soup is going to be black, right? And the taste might not be. Just try it. see if you like it. I used to make a lot of Chinese soups Chinese herbal medicine type of soups, not tongue as in decoctions, but when I was studying Chinese medicine, I was a vegetarian, And I thought I would never eat meat. I was like, no, I'm never going to eat meat. No one can force me. Like, I was a vegetarian for 9 years, and all through my Chinese medicine study, people were trying to, not, I shouldn't say force me, but convince me, oh, you need to eat meat. You won't be able to be healthy being a vegetarian, you know, long term and things like that. And to cut a long story short, one day I just decided I'm going to eat meat. And it was the second time I went to China. The whole first time I went to China, I managed to last there for 3 months being a vegetarian. It's very hard because the name vegetarian in Chinese means like a Su Cai Ren means a person who loves vegetables, right? A vegetable lover. And so one of my friends bought me a little pendant, which was a little bok choy made out of jade. He goes, because you love vegetables. And what that means is that it doesn't exclude you from eating meat. It just means I love a lot of it. So when you say, oh, what's Su Cai Ren, it means I'm a vegetable lover that just put a lot of vegetables with my meat. It's the kind of the insinuation, right? Now, maybe things have changed. I don't know, because they're a bit more westernized and a bit more influenced by that now, maybe. But it's like I haven't tried to go around telling people I'm a Su Cai Ren in China for many years. Like every time I've gone to China in the last 10 years has been as a meat eater, and I've just eaten whatever's there. Goodness knows what I've eaten in China. Anyway, okay, so that's Nicola's question. Thank you, One Love. What a great YouTube name. Just going through the comments. Yes, that's true. Chinese medicine can make medicine from anything. I've got these little bugs down here which are a medicine. I'll just show you those because they're so funny. This is called Chan Tui or Chan E. So these little things are cicadas, little bugs. Yeah. Very interesting. I don't use these in classical Chinese medicine. Like I had them from when I was doing my other Chinese medicine, and they make a really good display now, so I don't use them. They just stay there. They're just living the dream on the shelf now, immortalized for all society. Okay, you found the course online. Okay, great. So if you contact Arno through the course, the guy who runs the course in Australia, in Australia is in Brisbane, and that's JP Stats. I think that's his name. Yeah, John Paul. Just trying to remember his surname. Put coffee on me yourself. When he runs it again in Australia, you could basically just. So this is going back to the ICAM course, because I meant to mention this before. If people are interested in studying classical Chinese medicine, you can do it all online. And what he will do is he'll connect you once you've started to enroll in once you've done a course or enrolled in it, you can be connected into the Facebook community group, which is a really good way of meeting practitioners all over the world that do it, but also being able to ask questions and learn. Like I learned a lot by just being able to scroll through and see people's questions that were being asked, because everyone doing the course has already studied Chinese medicine as in TCM. And so everyone's in the same boat where they're just like, what is this system of medicine? What is this all about? Why is my life changing? So much. Tongue does mean soap. Yeah. Okay. So Patricia, sorry, I just joined this evening. I took oil of oregano for chest congestion and my chest started tingling and my lungs felt strange. Okay. Well, I hope that wasn't too earlier. Then do you think I had an early allergic reaction? Possible. Yeah, this channel's not a replacement for emergency services. So please call your doctor or your emergency services if you think that that's needed. But yes, when you're using a new essential oil on your body, there's a couple of things you should probably do, right? You can always test things on this area. It's a good area to test. It's a sensitive area. So in Chinese medicine, this is the yin area. This is the yang area on the outside. So if you're going to have a reaction, you're more likely to have a reaction here than you will on the outside. But also it's less visible and you can see it here. So if you put a few drops on your skin here, on your arm, you're going to be able to see what's happened. You'll be able to monitor it, basically. You'll be able to notice it. Like whereas we put a few drops on your back, it's really hard to check that yourself. And you should also like dilute the essential oils in a carrier oil if you're not sure about using them. Always follow the directions. I mean, this is not an essential oil channel, but just common sense. Yeah, but sometimes what can happen is I think you have used something for a while and it's been okay, and then you can have another reaction, to it. Just monitoring that and seeing how it's going. Your lungs felt strange, so I mean that could be also like tingling, and I don't know what you mean by strange. It might actually be working, like if it's opening your chest. And that sort of stuff should also, I don't know, are you saying you rubbed the oil on? I'm assuming that's what you did. I'm not a fan of ingesting essential oils. Like I don't know much about it. It's not my medicine area. So I would never recommend people to eat, like drink essential oils. I know there's people in doTERRA and groups, and I'm not saying it's not a possible medicine, but it's not what I do, and I can't advise people on that because I don't know about ingesting them. I've only ever used them externally. Yep. Yes, Chinese language does help the food choice. I think we're talking about the Jing there. Yes, definitely. Avoiding sick people for sure. Yeah. And not just sick people as in like, yeah, most people are aware of that now because of the pandemic. Like, okay, social distancing and all that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, this person said I drank it. It said 2 drops in water. Yeah. Maybe just contact the essential oil people and ask them. I'm honestly not sure about, I mean, that tells you the power of it, right? It can be quite powerful. So even 2 drops in water, like that's not much. It's not much. That's not much product in there. Yeah. So yeah. Right. We've done that one. Sorry, I've gone back here. Who exactly was Chibo? Well, we really get into the questions now, aren't we? Who was that old Chibo, and how can he help me now? I don't know much about Chibo. I don't know. We're not going to answer that now. I don't have enough information to give you a synopsis of Chibo properly. We might come back to that one. All right. What are some good tonic herbs for general health, specifically ones that don't cause much stagnation? Yeah. So the kind of coming back to the start of the channel, start of the thing where I was asked about the Jing. I'm not sure. You probably jumped on after that. Yeah. So if you're a vegetarian, this is what I was getting back to before. When I was a vegetarian, I used to have these soups that I would make. So out of sulwal tongue, it's called, or sujunza tongue, which is 4 gentlemen decoction. And like they're 4 herbs. You can add them together and it becomes like Bajan tongue, which is just a general tonic. And this is very TCM. It's not classical Chinese medicine. So the herbs you can use in your foods, and like, I'm not sure what you mean. Like if you just want to take like general health tonification, I would recommend this company of how they do they're doing these kind of supplement herbs now. I'm getting hungry, so I'm going to eat another one. This is the lion's mane one. You have to be really careful if you just take random herbs like this. And these come from Empirical Health, so that's all right. But let's say you just take random herbs and you grind them down and you eat them, because you're consuming all of the stuff in there. So if there's heavy metals or toxins or anything like that, you're consuming it all. You don't sometimes know what's in there. Grinding herbs into a powder and eating them, or like then mixing them with water and having them, is a cheaper way and a more economical. It's also better on the environment way to have herbs in your diet and your lifestyle. But you must make sure those herbs are really good quality, because when you boil the herbs up, you're discarding the actual, herbs and ingesting the liquid. Now, different effects happen from those two different ways. So typically, if a formula is called a san, S-A-N, means powder. So that means it was meant to be taken as a powder. Now, it gets really technical if you're a herbalist. Like some powders were meant to then be mixed with water or mixed with rice wine and then taken. And those things make a difference as to how we're supposed to ingest the herbs. But in general, tonic herbs, you can add these into your cooking. So when I was a vegetarian, I used to like just have a vegetarian soup. So what I would do is, and I still make these kinds of soups now, where what you do is you get like a soup pack from a food shop. Like, so it might have some root vegetables like a turnip, a parsnip, a celery, little stick of celery, and they wrap it all up in a packet, and you're good to go. Now you can just buy those things individually, and an onion or something like that, and you put that in your water, and that basically becomes the soup stock. And when I was cooking that soup stock, then I would add in the suo tongue, right? So that would be like shangdi or shudi, chuanshong, Ningdongwei, and baishao, those herbs in there. So they're just like 4 blood tonic herbs in there. And the other one would be sujunza tongue, which is like, this is one of the herbs that's commonly used. So this is a type of ginseng. Now, the problem with some of these herbs is they're so expensive. So, you don't want to kind of waste the herbs. Like with this, you could boil it, this Tides Shen, and then drink it. Now, this is the ultimate kind of, herbs. Yeah, I know you mean single herbs like reishi and stuff, but you can use these as if single herbs. So you could use this ginseng as a single herb. And that's why ginseng's used in China, like a gift ginseng. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they have these like framed ginsengs that are all kind of pinned out like this big giant root, and it's like, thousands of dollars. And it's given to elderly people as a gift. Like, because I was in these shops and I was like, what are these ginsengs on the wall? Like, are they decorational? Like, oh no, gift ginseng. And I was like, oh, what do you mean, gift ginseng? And they're like, oh, we gift it to the elderly and to our grandparents, and then they can cut a little piece off every time they feel tired or something. Or they, could make a medicinal wines are a really good one as well. So if you want to use those single herbs, yeah, okay, you can. So all those mushroom stuff, like I don't personally eat those mushroom things very often. I just have these because I just bought them and they're cool. And what's great about this is they're, little balls that you can just eat, and you just have to work this stuff into your lifestyle. I think I mentioned at the very start of this, like, you have to be careful not to have too much supplements, because that in itself is overworking your body. So I try not to do that. I have certain supplements that I have every day that are like things like zinc or vitamin B or something like that, like those kinds of supplements, not heaps of those things. And I don't take some of those things every day. I alternate the days that I take them because I don't necessarily think I need them all the time. And I might use certain foods, like, say, for instance, I'll eat Brazil nuts because they've got selenium, and that's the only reason you're kind of eating those Brazil nuts, right? And so if you can kind of use your foods a bit more like that, then you're hopefully not needing all these other supplements. So you have to ask yourself the question. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. Like, why do you think you need this mushroom? Why do you think you need this reishi mushroom? Like, why do you think you need this supplements? Are you tired? If you're tired, then you should try to sort that out with diet and lifestyle stuff, if possible. I get that as well. Like, I'm always looking for hacks and things like, oh, how can I be more productive? How can I be more healthy? Or how can I have more energy? How can I stay up late at night and get more stuff done? But that's counterproductive in a way. So exactly, yeah. All right. So I'm curious as to the traditional approach of Shaoyasan. I've heard you mention it before. I've found it doesn't result. Yes, of course. So, okay. So I'll tell you a little bit about Shaoyasan. And this will give you a really good example of why classical herbs are kind of different, or how they're different to TCM herbs. And we will get to your question about blood How do you clear heat of the blood? Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. That's a bigger question. Yeah, so Xiao Chai Hu Tang. So okay, so before Xiao Yao San, you had Xiao Chai Hu Tang, which is a classical older Han Dynasty kind of formula. I'm excited as well. Good. I've got someone else who's excited about herbs. And there's always this movement in any medicine, not just Chinese medicine, to like improve upon itself, right? Make things better. But also there's a movement in all medicines, and we see it now. Like drug companies are no different to how Chinese medicine was back at that time as well. Of like, okay, I need to make a living, I need to make a name for myself. And so there was all these styles developed and different systems. So when you learn TCM, it's just kind of plonked upon you. All these different systems and all these different styles, and it's up to you to kind of weed your way through it, and you don't realize until you're like 3 years into it what it's really about, because I think some teachers don't even realize that. Like, I mean, that was never properly explained to me that way, because I think everyone was just thinking, well, that's what it is. And so it's only been in the last like 10 to really like more popular in the last 10 years, but let's say 20 years to 25 years, probably 20 years, where the classical system has kind of had a resurgence, like and people have been able to explain it and get involved in it more and use it more. So there's an idea in classical Chinese medicine where, like, let's say a Xiao Chai Hu Tang is doing one job at a time, whereas Xiao Yao San is like trying to do two jobs at once. So it's basically saying you've got a patient. Let's look at this 5 elements thing here that I made earlier for a different video. So one way of thinking about how Xiao Yao San works is you've got this wood and earth situation going on. So you've got liver qi stagnation, right? It's not so much a wood and earth. I mean, it is a little bit of that, but I want to draw something else, but I don't have a pen here. So let me just grab look for, is there a pen in here? No, it's not. That's right. So if you think about wood, as in this is the circle of wood. So wood has two halves, right? You have the blood of wood, which is your liver, and you have the qi of wood, which is your gallbladder. So there's two aspects of the yin and yang of that wood element. So Xiao Yao San kind of treats both of those at once, whereas Xiao Chai Hu Tang is treating the qi of the wood, the yang of the aspect, not the underlying deficiency. So that's the best way to describe it. That's probably a bit more succinct. We don't need to get into big details. So of course it's not going to, it'll make dampness worse. It's not a formula for dampness. I don't know who said it's a formula for dampness. I found it doesn't resolve the issue like the aromatic for dampness. Yeah, so it's got like Chen Pi in it, I think. Hasn't it got Chen Pi? But yeah, it's not going to do that because it's got blood tonic herbs in it. So again, coming back to the idea of you're either going to tonify or you're going to reduce. Now, harmonization as a treatment principle, which is what I was talking about that Xiaoyang video, is a horizontal movement. Let's say it's not a purgative movement, but it is a different movement to tonifying. Like tonifying, you're asking the body to hold in and you retain, whereas harmonizing, you're not doing that. Yep. So yeah, also want to let people know that I'm launching a new course, and that's why I've been busy getting that ready. Not making as many videos, but I'm going to get back into making the videos and the live streams and stuff soon. But I'm launching a course about Chinese medicine. So if you want to learn step by step about, you can go on the website. I'll pop the website here now, because I've literally just finished the course. Outline and everything. Now, this is not to make you a practitioner, but it is to help you understand, like to help you go on a journey of understanding Chinese medicine for yourself, for your community, right, for preventative health. So the first one is going to be foundations of Chinese medicine, or what I'm going to call foundational concepts of Chinese medicine. And it's going to be talking about like the yin and yang and the 5 elements, the relationship of that. But I'm also going to spend time talking about the 6-level system, which is where we talk about the Shanghai Lun system. So it's my version of what I think the basics of Chinese medicine are, right? To not to be a practitioner, but to be empowered for yourself to understand, well, why do I get sick like this? When the weather changes, how should my body change? How should I change my lifestyle, my diet? And how you can pick up on those things for early treatment and early intervention. Whether you go and see a practitioner at that point or you try to use diet and lifestyle at home, that's what's going to teach you, like how to use the diet and lifestyle at home and when do you intervene with those things. So that's the course. So if you're interested in that, and then there's another 12 weeks. This is a 1-year program. There's a 12-week program on Chinese diet therapy. So this is essentially what I would teach at various schools that I've taught Chinese diet therapy at, the same kind of ideas. So talking about like your spleen and stomach as a digestive process, the earth element, but also talking about what the properties of grains, fruit and vegetables, what are the properties of nuts and seeds, and then talking about how do you tonify blood, how do you tonify yang, how do you, do these, like, so we can talk about supplemental foods like we have today, these Jing kind of foods. How do you tonify your Jing and your essence? And then and it's all interactive, right? So it's all live on Zoom, and the classes will be recorded so you can watch them afterwards if you need to. You can come to the Zoom classes in person and ask your questions. So that's what I'm working on. And if you would like to get involved in that, you can enroll in the course. It helps support the channel, helps support me going forward. And it also gives me an opportunity to teach people something that's more valuable. And there's so much stuff that I can't say on YouTube because it can be reckless. If people get one piece of information, you can go off half cocked, and you just can't. And I can't promote people to be self-treating themselves on YouTube because you just don't know where people are at in their knowledge. And there's also so much knowledge in Chinese medicine that builds upon itself. And so it can be annoying and frustrating because some people are at this level, some people are at that level. So if we all get in the course together, we're all at the same level, and you can learn from each other as well. You can meet people all over the world that are interested in self-help and learning about Chinese medicine. So I'm really excited. If you're interested in the course and you're like, oh, Marie, those times don't suit me, would it be possible to do it at this time? I'd love to enroll if it was at this time. Please let me know, because I've tried to encompass the time slots. One is I'm on the other side of the world to most people in little old Perth, Western Australia, the most isolated city in the world. And we just have a weird time zone for different places. Like, it's the opposite time to America. It's, it's not so bad if you're in Sydney or Melbourne, but it's just 7 hours behind, I think, or ahead of the UK. It's just a different time zone. So that's what I'm doing. I'm still answering people's questions. If you have a question, feel free to ask it. We've got a blood heat question now to ask about. How do you clear heat of the blood? Oh, someone's asking me a question. Have I seen what person's channel? I can't see the link there. Can you just put their name, the channel name? Sometimes these things block links, or it might be just because I'm on StreamYard and not on actual YouTube saying these things. How do you clear heat? So what do you, Bill C, what do you want to do? Okay, I guess my question is, blood heat usually has these kinds of symptoms, right? So it can have like skin breaking out, like a toxic heat type of situation, like heat of what are the symptoms? I'm not sure if you have, well, it might not be you personally, but if the person or the thing you mean has blood heat, it's not a common pattern. It's mentioned in Chinese medicine, but I guess we don't commonly see it because we don't see people with these raging diseases, like where you'd have a fever or something like that, and you'd have this kind of like also so a blood heat pattern can be at the late stage of a disease like HIV, where it's not been treated very okay, I'm not sure what that is. Pomfoly, what is that? Maybe I just have to quickly look it up. Oh, an eczema kind of thing, right? A skin disease. Right, okay, so you probably do have it. Sorry about that. Well, not you personally, but that's the, yeah. Okay, so blisters and things like that breaking out. So skin diseases breaking out, yeah. Yeah, so anxiety, and so this is, yeah, eczema and blisters, yeah, all right. So getting the picture now. There's a few ways to think about treating this in Chinese medicine. One is that you can think, especially if there's itchiness associated with it, when there's heat in the heart or heat in the blood, like at that level, it's affecting the heart, which is your shen, your mind. I'm not saying you're making it up or anything like that, but there's a connection between like your skin being and the sensoriness of your skin, right? Which, okay, it's erupting with these pustules and these, or not necessarily pustules, but in blood heat it can be that, but let's say blisters and things like that. There's a lot of acupuncture treatments that can kind of clear the heat out, right? So this would be bleeding methods, and like things to drain the channels, or what they call dredge the channels. So sometimes a 7-star hammering is kind of used, or prick to bleed methods, where they get the Jing well points, which are the ends of the fingers, and they just bleed those points. If your acupuncturist hasn't tried that already, then that might be a way to kind of ask them, look, could we try these bleeding methods? Now, you don't want to use bleeding methods. Like I wouldn't use bleeding methods on a patient if they were very depleted as well, because that can be the case where people can be really depleted. I'm just going to grab a jacket because it's getting really cold in here. It's like springtime, but it's bloody freezing. I don't know why it's so cold. I've just got this jacket here from before, so I'll just wear this. Yes, phlegm disturbing the heart. Okay, so acupressure wise, this is what I would do. I would get your hand and go between sort of the fingers here. If you've got a pen, the back of the pen you can use to press in, because these points are really deep and you have to press them hard. So if I just press my fingers, nothing's going to happen. So I kind of need to do this. I need to kind of, I'll get right in the camera for you. Kind of need to, now this is the Sanjiao channel on the outside, but the heart channel's on the inside. It's kind of pressing in there. So these points are called heart 8 and pericardium 8. So particularly the pericardium one, which what that does is it clears heat away from the heart. So you'd use this one and you'd use this one on your wrist here. So just there in the middle, so right in the center. Now, if you get it wrong and you're just pressing somewhere along here, it's not going to be too bad. As in, it's not going to make you, it's not like one point presses the anxiety on and one turns it off. So just across here, you can kind of rub across there, press there. You can go all the way down the pericardium channel and find, this pericardium channel is like right down the middle of your, I'm trying to get that right in the camera, right down the center of your arm, down here. Center of your forearm. So you basically, I'll just stand up and do it. There we go. So just kind of down here. And you can do pressing, you could do tapping. Yep. And that would help to clear the heat away from the heart, those points. Sometimes on the feet, you could have similar points. So I'm not going to get my feet out in front of the camera here, but it's a mirroring system of Chinese medicine, right? So just at the ends of the webs of your toes, you have like liver 2, liver 3 could be used there. that's a possibility. So like in the Neijing, it says all itchiness is a heart problem, like as in not a heart disease, but all itchiness belongs to the heart. Like it belongs to it's a cognitive thing, right? That you're thinking about it. Like just me saying itchy is making me feel itchy, talking about itchy. So that's part of it. Now, I'm not saying that could cure the other things. You've probably already tried things like calamine lotion, or calamine, you can buy it as a powder and apply that on. You could possibly try aloe vera, growing aloe vera plants and using those things just to relieve the itchiness. But if you haven't seen a practitioner, that would be the next thing to do, is to like, I went to school with a girl, she's a woman, a lady, who had one of the most severe psoriasis I've ever seen. Like it was terrible. Now she's an established practitioner now, and her skin's amazing. Her skin's really good. But she committed to Chinese medicine. She was using it before she studied it, and it was so expensive. Like, and she was a very healthy person, like trying to be healthy. She was a typical like hippie kind of person, like before it was even cool to be, vegan or vegetarian or anything like that. And like she was super, what I'm saying is she was super committed to Chinese medicine. She had psoriasis, like thick patches of psoriasis, and her whole legs would be covered in it, and it would just be incredibly painful and debilitating and expensive to treat all this stuff. And she went through this process, and she used like boiling up herbs, like these kind of herbs, regularly, and it got rid of it. Like but it took years and years and years of treatment. So at least I can remember she was at the same Chinese medicine school as me. She had to stop and start because of this illness as well. But she managed to finish it. And yeah, it's what I'm getting at is it's possible to treat this stuff, but these are long-term commitments for getting rid of some skin stuff. So what causes, so Miras, you just need to tell me the channel name in the comments. Don't put a link, because I don't think I can see the links. Otherwise I can't answer that question. Why does fire blaze up and disturb the heart? Yeah. So can be lifestyle factors. It could be alcohol, drugs. It's usually typical when you stop having those things, if you have had a history of having that stuff, that some of those symptoms go away like quite quickly. So it's not like, oh, okay, you had drugs 20 years ago and now you've got this problem. But certainly those things can, they cause the yang to flare up, right? And so it can do that. Diet stuff can cause phlegm problems as well. And sometimes these things can be intermingled. If you get anxiety, you're using stuff to manage the anxiety. And sometimes it's hard to stop it because you're like, I'm anxious about this problem, and the problem is making me more anxious. Then it's a catch-22. Sleep is a big one. And IBN Cooper, I haven't heard of. Yeah, sodas. Do you drink a lot of sodas? Do you have a lot of sugar? Like sugar can cause it for sure. Like sugar's going to cause a heating up of things, and that disturbance. But the other thing is sugar, like it can also relax and relieve. So initially you're craving the sugar sometimes to relax. Now sugar, like as in honey, is used in Chinese medicine. Some types of sugar are used in herbs for that purpose, and sweet herbs are used like that. Okay, big water blisters on one toe. This sounds really bad. Blood heat, yeah. I'm just trying to think about other ways you could use it rather than just a herbal formula. So herbal formulas are obviously the what I go to in my mind, in terms of like, it would depend on your pulse. So it might be a matter of tonifying the blood. I'll just get that off the screen. It might be a matter of tonifying blood and then and helping blood build up, or sometimes with herbal formulas, they do have a clearing, like we use a clearing heat aspect to them. Even in classical Chinese medicine, there's some formulas that are kind of used like that. But for sure, the idea of you don't want to necessarily be cooling your body all the time, because it might be it'll cause a detriment over time if you're just cooling and cooling. But the acupuncture could quite well relieve some of those symptoms, or try that acupressure if you haven't tried those things before. So I would try pressing those points. So you can just use those on your hands and just kind of press into the quite hard, and give that a try. Yep. Okay, channel name. I'm not sure about this one. I'll have to look it up. I'm always interested to see about other channels. So let me find that channel later on, and they might be about Chinese medicine. IBN Corpa. I'll have to look them up, and I'll leave a comment for you later on, okay? So we've got another question. One person has dampness. Once a person has dampness, read it properly. Once a person has dampness and the dampness has been around long enough to turn into damp heat, is it possible to eliminate the dampness completely with proper treatment? Can it eventually be resolved? Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's one of the reasons why dampness is so I was surprised when I first started making this channel how interested in dampness people were because it's such a common thing, and there's no other diagnosis for these symptoms in a Western sense. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, that explains my stuff, but yet why doesn't the treatment kind of get rid of it? And this is one of the reasons why I got attracted more to classical Chinese medicine, because there's things in classical Chinese medicine that just kind of like, whoa, that just nails that aspect of it. And that would, to me, would be the warming aspect. So why do you have dampness? Come back to my little chart here. You have dampness because your earth element isn't working properly. So your spleen and stomach, as the cooking pot on the stove, let's say, it's your stomach can't digest because the spleen's not strong enough to transform and transport. And so therefore you get this dirty dregs. You get the dirty dregs building up. So not all dampness transforms into damp heat. And what you might be now seeing, so this is a way of how classical Chinese medicine looks at things versus TCM. So TCM would say, oh, you've got damp heat, so therefore you need this purging sort of treatment, like purging out the heat or clearing the damp heat, which relieves out the symptoms somewhat. But then, does it ever go away? So in classical Chinese medicine, often they see the same symptoms as a different thing. So the dampness is still there because of that weakness of earth or that deficiency of the spleen and stomach. But the heat that TCM says, oh, that's heat. Classical Chinese medicine thinks that is your body's yang. That is your body's weak yang floating up to an area, right? So if a person gets red in the face, like a flushing, let's say, that's not a damp heat symptom, but a flushing in the face, it's their own body's yang. What is that redness? It's not redness from the sun or the environment coming onto you. It's your own body's yang flushing into that area, coming into that. Why is it doing that? Why didn't it do that yesterday? Why didn't it do that 5 years ago? This is why people, I'm getting these hot flushes. Now I'm getting rosacea, like red cheeks, right? Because it's your body's yang flushing into that area, coming into that area. Now, technically, you've probably already watched my video on damp heat because someone asked me about that. So there is a type of damp heat where you've got like a gastroenteritis kind of damp heat, and in herbs, you do want to purge that out. Like in classical herbs, you do want to purge out that damp heat. So if you've had a food poisoning, for instance, like that would be the true damp heat. And if you really have damp heat, you're going to have a thick, yellow, greasy tongue coating. And that's one of the things where in classical Chinese medicine, we do look at your tongue. So if you really, really, really do have damp heat, you've got that. And then we would purge that. But then after that purging treatment, we would tonify your body. And by tonify, we would use a lot more warmness than in TCM they would use the warmness. So the main herb you can use to support your spleen and stomach from a classical perspective is ginger. So fresh ginger. You want to warm that stomach. You want to, like, ginger relaxes your stomach. It helps it relax. It helps it kind of digest what's in there. So some people on the channel already on this stream have mentioned, like, stay away from cold foods, all that kind of stuff. Yes, that all applies. Like, if you have a weak spleen and stomach, you have to look after it. You have to protect it, and don't put super cold foods into it. Otherwise, you might you might have a problem. You might come into a detriment. So that is the answer. So is it possible to eliminate it? I think you need a combination of herbal formula to be on a herbal formula, and your diet. So I see patients who do either or. It's not as effective as the both together, let's say. So yeah, what I'm saying is you still have to have your diet right, even if you're on Chinese herbs. And the herbs formula, like, this is where the classical herbs makes a big difference. This is just a different way of thinking. There's a lot more warmer herbs that are kind of repairing, thinking about your gut health, thinking about repairing your spleen, repairing your small intestine, like its ability to absorb and transform and transport. So when in Chinese medicine they're saying, like, when you're thinking about this earth element, so in TCM they're saying, oh, your spleen and stomach is here, right? But this is all your digestive functions. So it's, yeah, exactly. It's, and I like someone asked me that, like, they wanted a video on it, and I'm like trying to explain, and they get upset. Like, why don't you just tell us the 5 T's that are going to cure the dampness? Just like, well, they're not. There's not. There's not. This is where Chinese medicine has gone a little skew-if in some ways. And I'm not trying to have a go at it because I love it. I've dedicated my life to it. But there's some things where they're very good. It's very good at explaining it. And okay, and the other thing you have to think about with damp heat is in China, it's hot. It's really hot, right? If you've ever been to China, it's bloody hot and it's humid. And it's sticky and it's thick, right? The atmosphere is thick and sticky. I mean, apart from that, now the pollution makes it thick and sticky. And so people are afraid of heat. Like, they literally are, they hate the heatiness. There's teas I've seen that's called clear the heatiness. And that heat makes people angry and frustrated and just annoyed, right? Especially if you don't have an aircon. You're just like, oh, I'm annoyed and I'm afraid of the heat. And that is that's had a big impact. And that's when the Wenbing school of Chinese medicine kind of came in on top of, so you had the Shang Hanlun system, which is called damage by cold. And there's a few reasons that people say these, like, why these changes have happened. One is that, yeah, okay, you had this heating up in China. China got warmer. But you also had like the cold damage system. The herbs that treat that cold damage system are a lot harder to use. They're a lot more dangerous herbs to use. As in, I'm not trying to have a bag out of TCM, but there's, like, let's say Xiaoyasan, right? Most people feel a bit better on a Xiaoyasan. They do. They just, okay, I feel a bit better. But they're not completely better, but they're not worse. Whereas with classical Chinese herbs, it's much more possible to make people worse with the herbs than in TCM. And so that makes practitioners, they have to be better at it to not make people worse. But even in my practice, by saying worse, I don't mean like, okay, this person's now got some kind of detriment, lifelong problem from the herbs. Like I'm not saying, it's not like an adverse event has happened that's they've got to have a leg chopped off or something like that. I don't mean that kind of worse. I mean, like, the symptoms are significantly not better, or they might get a headache, or they might have a flare up after taking the herbs or something like that if they've been prescribed inappropriately, like it's not the right time to take that formula. There's a system within classical Chinese medicine which gives you an idea of like opposite formulas. So sometimes you think it's one formula, but it's actually is the opposite. That's not until you give one formula that kind of tells you. And there's sometimes, not always, but and certainly wouldn't be the normal, but there are some times where you won't know until you give that formula. And also, it's the same as Western medicine. It's a practice. Like Chinese medicine is a practice. So over the years of doing it, you get better and better, hopefully. Not worse and worse at doing it. And so then you are getting more experienced at doing these things. And there also are patients that you see that have unusual conditions, and you might never have seen those. So like Xiaoyang conditions, I see those every day. And so I have plenty of Xiaoyang kind of formulas going on all the time. But to see patients who, have that, even that true damp heat, that's not a very common, it's not very common presentation. And again, depends what area you work in, that kind of stuff. So yes, that would, I think it can be resolved. I think it's a commitment to protecting your, so at one point you've just got to strengthen that spleen and stomach through two ways. One is not bombarding it with stuff that's, the shit foods and the things that are hard to digest and all that sort of stuff, protecting it. And then also nourishing it with the foods like ginger. There's some other warming kind of foods you could use. Like even sometimes people use pepper, cinnamon, some aromatic spices can be used in there to raise the movement of things, as well, like cardamom and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So someone says, how long have you been treating patients with Chinese medicine? So I started practicing in 2001. So 20 years this year. I went to school in 1997. Straight out of high school. I was 17. And then I did my 3 years of study. I went to China for 3 months. Came back and I started my practice in private practice. And I've been using Chinese herbs all that time. Now, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't like invested in Chinese herbs. I wasn't loving the herbs. I was using the herbs, but I wasn't using them in the same way I'm using them now. And I've done this classical system of herbs for about so I started learning it 2016, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I've been doing 5 years. So when I did Arno's course in the classical herbs, I went home from the first weekend there, and I just threw away all of my TCM herbs. I was like, right, I'm not using any of this shit anymore. Got rid of it all. I just got rid of it off my shelf, so I wasn't going to tempt me. And I was like, I'm just going to use these classical Chinese herbs. And it took me a long time to kind of nut through what to do, because I was using some formulas, like TCM uses classical herbs for sure. Not everyone embraces the system the same way as that. Some people take a while to transition through, but I was like, no, I'm an either or person. I'm just either going to do it or not do it. And I decided I would do it. So I've really, really changed my ways, right? Oh, you don't like cooking, you always eat out. Yeah. Okay. So here's a couple of tips you could do for your diet, right? If that's the case, and you might. So, can you cook a soup? If you can cook a soup, because you're coming. Are you, Bill? Are you in the US, or you're coming into winter there, right? So, what you want to do is, find something. Okay, here we go. Just do one or two things. Don't do everything. Like sometimes, especially, the way you ask the questions on this channel, I think you probably are really invested in learning. You're obviously invested in learning about your health and learning about Chinese medicine. But sometimes also it can get overwhelming. Like I find that too, right? Yeah, it's fall there, so it's going to come into winter. Whereas like where I am now, it's coming into spring. It's going to get hotter. So soups are a really good way to incorporate that nourishment into your diet. You can get a slow cooker, which is a crock pot, or these slow cookers that you basically just cut up the veggies, you put it in, you cover it with water, you put it on overnight, you wake up in the morning and the soup is there. Now, if you're a person that's just a one-man one-man band, you don't have a big family there, then you, yeah, that was next level. You should see all the herbs I threw away. Like, I just had to get rid of them out of sight, out of mind. Not these herbs, not my raw herbs, but all my granules, because I was mostly using granules at that time. And the things like the chant way and all that sort of stuff just came to a better place. It came to the YouTube channel instead of in the clinic. Anyway, so what you can do is pick one thing that you can do, right? Rather than going, oh, I've got to change all this stuff. Because I do that too. I watch some videos, and like I recently started getting into this guy who's really, really good, like just about sleep, productivity, lifestyle, like health and stuff, but all from a science perspective. It's called Huberman Lab. That's his YouTube channel, Andrew Huberman. And I've seen him on Joe Rogan a few times. And you watch a video and you think, oh, these are all really great things, and I'm going to do them all. I'm going to change my life. And I am one of those people that does things like that. I do just change things. You know, I can just stop and start and do things crazily. But also you can be bogged down thinking, oh, I've got to do all this stuff, you know, and I can't do it all. So then you do nothing at all. So I would just say, don't let that stop you from doing one thing. Just do one thing. Just pick one thing. And then, you know, maybe in a week you might be ready to do two things. So that would be my advice, right? So I used to be a person that hardly ever cooked. Like I lived in the back of my shop. Like I had a shop at the front and a house at the back where my clinic and the shop was all there, and there was like cafes either side. There was restaurants up the road. Like why would I cook? Because there was restaurants everywhere, and I could just go and eat out at my friends' restaurants every night if I wanted to. So that's kind of what I did for a year or 2 years, like that almost. And I did cook, but yeah. So I guess if you're eating out, try not to. I don't know. Please don't eat Macca's. We call it in Australia McDonald's. Fast foods. Try to avoid that stuff. Even if you just pick one day a week. And what I like to do with the soup is you make that big soup, and you could do what we said if you wanted to have those kind of blood tonic things in there. I think if you've got the eczema situation, maybe just have the plain soup for a start, not adding herbs into it. You probably could put Dongwei in it. It's Dang, Dongwei. I'll write it down. I get caught up in Chinese medicine world, and sometimes my students say, could you spell that out for me? Because they're just like, it sounds like bing bong boo 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 boo. And I'm just like, what? Isn't that normal? Doesn't everyone just know Chinese medicine? So you could add Dongwei into it. And you could, so you could do that. And just do one thing. And what I do is the soup. Oh, sorry, I got confused, got distracted because someone texted me. You can make your soup and then freeze the portions. What I do is I put them in little cups, and you might say, oh, but Marie, you're supposed to eat fresh and everything. Yes, you are, but it's better than, you have to do the best of what you can do. And that's better to have your own freshly cooked foods and have it frozen and reheat it than eat out every night of the week, right? So just freeze them in. Like I just get lots of those little cups and freeze up all the cups in the door of the fridge, and then you've got all your soups kind of there. And if you make it very stocky and very kind of rich, like you could use meat stock in there as well, then you can use that as your stock for other foods if you want to kind of do that. Okay. Keeping on answering people's questions. We've got heaps of questions. If you're on Instagram, thanks the new people that have just joined the stream. You can ask a question. I'm on YouTube and Facebook answering people's questions. Okay. Yes, you're right. The aromatic herbs are a tease for dampness. Right. We've got a few more questions here. One about chi stagnation and TCM. Okay. So what does classical Chinese medicine say about qi stagnation compared to TCM? So this is the Xiao Yang, right? If you watched that video, which you did, so I know you said you did. that is basically the classical version of the qi stagnation is a Xiaoyang pattern. So in that video, I was talking about what is chronic Xiaoyang and where people kind of flaring in and out of that as a result of, like, let's say they got a cold or a flu and now they're kind of, sick in this kind of thing that's coming and going. But also chronic Xiaoyang can be this congestion that just kind of builds up, which is a wood element thing. So Xiaoyang is a wood element problem. And like, I don't ask people as much as I used to. Like in TCM, I was always like, okay, the classic signs of qi stagnation are like the diaphragm getting tight, and then they get, which patients don't complain about that, but they do have that. And then they get tight under there and they get sighing. So sighing like this. What is sighing? Sighing is your body's way of relieving that qi stagnation. So that is also a part of that, can be treated with Xiaoyang. So it's Xiao Chai Hu Tang basically replaces the need for Xiao Ya San. You would just treat that first. So Xiao Chai Hu Tang would be, okay, let's treat this qi stagnation, and then we'll give you Dongwei Xiao Ya San or another formula that they might need, not necessarily that formula. Don't just jump straight to that. It could be whatever to tonify blood. And let's give you a blood tonic next. Whereas Xiao Ya San's kind of saying, well, you've got both going on, so we'll just treat both at once. Whereas classical Chinese medicine's like, we treat one thing to give the body one message, then treat another thing, give the body that next message. So I'm just going to stop this for a second because I just have to text someone back. Okay, cool. Just something important. Life goes on. It doesn't stop being important. But I love doing this. I'm glad I've got time to do this today. So yeah, if you've just jumped on the stream, then welcome. We've still got some more questions, heaps of questions here to answer. So yeah, in TCM, they say, okay, you've got the sighing, you've got the frustration, probably the anger. There's nothing in the literature for Xiao Chai Hu Tang saying, oh, you're angry, so you should use this formula. But it makes sense with that. And you probably, in your clinic, you'll see the difference. And if I'm just going to mention this, Nicholas, because you said you're a naturopath using Chinese medicine. When I say Xiao Chai Hu Tang, it's got to be the classical doses of Xiao Chai Hu Tang. It's not that horrible pills that you buy over the counter, but they don't put enough Chai Hu. Like the dose of Chai Hu I use is like 24 grams of Chai Hu and 12 grams of Ban Sha and 9 grams of all the other things. So it's got to be those ratios, and it's got to be a good quality of herbs for one thing. And that's how you get the results with it. Like I can't say I've never seen it, because in the student clinic where I've supervised, they use those little pills, and I have used Xiao Chai Hu Tang in those little pills, right? The little Black Pearl or whatever brands. And I've been surprised myself. In those cases, I just like, oh, the acupuncture must have worked, but it's probably the herbs as well. So they do something, but I wouldn't use them in my practice because they're just so weak, as in they're not very strongly working. And once you get into Chinese herbal medicine as a herbalist, you want to know if something's working or not. You don't want it kind of half working. And when it's half working, is it because I've prescribed the wrong formula or a slightly right formula? Like I'm in the ballpark, but I'm not 100% right. Or is it just because the quality of my herbs aren't right? Like that's a big issue for people in herbal medicine practice. Okay, so Bill C, another one. Oh, yeah, okay, this is a good, I'll just point that out. Vietnamese, I find, is the most balanced takeaway. Yeah, you're true. It's true. So exactly, when you say you eat takeouts all the time, it doesn't have to be McDonald's. It could be healthier takeouts. And, you know, you can have, you can have a, you know, a balanced takeaway. And, you know, you can have, you can have a, 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 That's what I was kind of getting at. Like when I lived near all the restaurants, I was like, well, you know, yeah, sushi and Japanese, and like there's some great things there. But probably the issue with eating takeouts all the time. I'm glad your mind's been blown. You won't go to work properly the rest of today. I won't be able to sleep all weekend. I'll be thinking about the ICAM course. The thing is, if you enroll in that course, so I don't get any monetary kickback from Arno about the course. Maybe I should ask him for one, because I keep promoting it all the time. But yeah, I don't get anything. I just do it out of the goodness of my heart because I believe in Chinese medicine. I believe in pointing people in the right direction as well. But if you do the first week of that, the first weekends, let's say, like as in you do it online, you'll know whether it's right for you. And you don't have to waste more money if you'll know. Like I knew from the first weekend, I was like, this is right. Just makes sense. And I'm in. I can't stop now. I always have to sell a kidney to pay for the rest of it. But like I was in, I knew that I had to kind of do it. Yeah. Okay. Bill C. A practitioner was trying to tell me about finding roots and branches grow. I wasn't understanding. He was talking about disease. What did he mean? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's this idea in Chinese medicine of the roots and the branches, the ben and biao, it's called. So the ben and the biao. So the biao is the branches and the ben is the root, right? Now, what it means is you have a cause of the disease, but you also have the symptoms. And you can treat both of those things. You could treat one of those things, or you could treat like one and then another thing. So like, let's say with your situation, I think you had the eczema thing and the blood heat. So the cause of the disease, it would be like, okay, so if you had blood deficiency and the symptom was lightheadedness, or pain is probably the best example. Itchiness. Yeah, let's go with the itchiness. You've already got that. Oh my God. Now, if a patient comes to me and they said, right, and I've had patients like this recently, right, where, okay, I've got itchiness all over my body and it's irritating me, it's vexing me, I can't live like this. And then I take their pulse and I'm like, you have blood deficiency. And so what we need to do to treat that itchiness is tonify your blood, and then your skin's not going to be so dry, and then it's not going to be so itchy, it's not going to be so irritable. That might take a lot of time to treat the cause, the root. The root is the cause, to treat the blood deficiency. So I might say, oh, you need to change your diet. You need to eat this. You need to have this. Here's the herbs. The herbs aren't going to work straight away. They're going to take time to work, because a blood deficiency, especially causes of things that took a long time to occur. Now, you could just wake up with the problem, wake up with the issue, but it didn't just happen. It happened from all this like long-term kind of stuff going on. And so there's these two factors, right, that you have to consider: the cause of the problem and the symptoms. Now, if I had a patient with that itchiness and they were vexed and they can't stop scratching, it's almost my duty to do what I can to relieve that itch. Now, that relieving the itch, if we could do that, let's say with acupuncture or external cream, something like that. If I had a cream that could relieve the itch, let's say, I don't, but if I did, that might relieve the problem. It's a temporary relief, but it's better than no treatment, and it's also warranted in that case. But it's also not getting to the cause. So it means that the person has to keep coming back to me to get this cream, or, have to keep putting this cream on to treat it. So it's the same as in Western medicine. They have this as well. Like, you have some things where this is you have a symptom, you could treat the symptom. Like if you have a cough, you could suppress a cough with medicine. Let's say if it was appropriate to do so, you could take a codeine-based cough syrup, which very strongly suppresses the cough, stops the cough. But as soon as that medicine wears off, the cough comes back and you haven't treated the root of the problem. Now, the body may just self-resolve the root of the problem, and sometimes that's what you need to do. You just need to manage the symptoms for a certain period of time so that, the body can resolve it. But in Chinese medicine, this ben and biao, this symptoms and the branches and the branches and the root, is kind of like that. So that's a fundamental principle of treatment. So they'll say you could they basically say it's reckless to just treat the branches because you're only alleviating the symptoms. But sometimes in a strategy of treatment, you might treat the branches now and then say, right, in 3 weeks' time, once this itch is gone from this treatment, we're going to then look at treating the root so it doesn't come back. So it kind of supports the patient. Wow, I've been going almost 2 hours. This is a long stream. This is great. Lots of people asking questions. I've got time to answer them. Okay. Right. My daughter's just been given a pill for her damp heat condition that is causing her acne. Pill form, herbs, 3 pills a day. Today was her first day. She feels hot. Is that normal? So here comes the legal disclaimer. I'm not your daughter's practitioner, obviously. And so in any case, I'll give you an answer. I'm not trying to dismiss you, but you need to go and talk to your practitioner. So practitioners sometimes, like that. There's obviously a reason. There's obviously, I don't know what the pill is. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of complicated. There's a lot of information here that we don't know. So it's not normal to just feel hot after taking herbs as a normal thing, right? You don't all herbs you take, you're going to feel hot. Or if you have damp heat, would you feel hot after taking medicine? No. But sometimes, what is that heat? So what is that heat in Chinese medicine? It's your body's yang. So what can happen is you're activating your body's healing system. You're activating your yang, and it could be flaring it out. Now, sometimes that hotness, I don't know what those herbs are. Like in the system of herbs I use, sometimes people do have a reaction. I want to know what that reaction is, so that because that informs me about whether this is the right formula for them. And usually, if that's the case, I'll tell my patients, like, I'm going to give you these herbs. If you get blah 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 symptoms, then that means we need to give you something else. This might not be the right formula for you, Or I might say to them, if you're not feeling, right from this, like as in there just could be something, that they might unusual, like, just to contact me. So contact your herbalist and ask them. That's probably the best thing to do. They're my own comments. You can put the Ningdongwei in soup. Yeah, not dung. but yeah, you can put the Ningdongwei in your soup. Okay, that's a massive question. I will have to end this stream at some point. I have to get on a Zoom call soon. I just realized that now. So I probably have to finish in about 10 minutes. So thank you so much, Nicholas, for your interest in Chinese medicine. Really, really good that I could connect with you today. So, this is the person asking about the daughter and the thing. Yes, they're doing that tomorrow. Good. Okay. So, yeah. Someone says, do you treat patients remotely? Yes, I do. So I'm doing a couple of things that are just new. I do online consults, and that's why I've got to go on a Zoom, because I've got to get on an online consult with someone. So you can jump onto my website and book a consult with me that way. Let me see if I can find it. I'll just put the link there. And what I do is I'll do a chat with you online. There's a little video about what to expect. So that's the link to my online consultations. And I'm also doing a course. I'm running a new course in Chinese medicine that I've never done before, as in I've taught all this stuff before, but I've never offered a course online to people privately. For people that want to go to the next level in understanding Chinese medicine, maybe you want to study Chinese medicine as a practitioner, later on, but you don't want to invest all this money now, and you want a step-by-step guide to kind of understanding some aspects of Chinese medicine, but also for self-help. Like, this will empower you. After you've done this year of Chinese medicine, there won't be much self-help that you won't know about. Like, I will give you everything that I can kind of safely give you to empower you to do self-help stuff. And so you can go through the list of what we'll learn. And so you have to do the first one to get to the final self-help one. There will be some self-help throughout it. But the final course, which is a 12-week course, will be on things like external treatments for injuries, like cold and flu treatments, how to intervene early even with herbal formulas and things like that you can probably get over the counter from different places in Chinatowns, and how to utilize these kinds of things, like I'm saying, foods as medicine, but in a systematic way. So you'll know what to do when something happens, and you'll also know, okay, this is the time where I can use foods and diet, and this is the time where I need to go and see a practitioner. And the thing is, if you see a practitioner early on, then you don't need, you might not need to pay as much money for the treatment because it won't be as established. Earlier treatment is much better than waiting for something to be fully, a big, massive problem. It just takes longer to treat it and harder to treat it. Now, I understand a lot of people don't know about Chinese medicine. They come to it later on in life. And I feel incredibly fortunate that I learned Chinese medicine when I was 17, and I was able to start using it straight away, like on myself. So that's the only system of medicine I've always used. Like, I've only ever been to a Western medicine doctor maybe 5 times in my life. Like, it's not like I needed to run to the doctor all the time for stuff, because there's so much utility in, obviously you can do a lot of self-treatment if you're a practitioner with herbs and things, but there's so much utility in that early intervention stage of things where you're preventing stuff that, you don't even know what you've prevented because you've prevented these illnesses, right? Anyway, so that's what I want to do. I want to really empower people to learn. And so I put that link in the stream somewhere. It's a bit further up, I think. And I literally just finished making that course yesterday. So I want to kind of empower people to learn it. And I really would love for you to have the opportunity to do that. So that'd be awesome. If you want to get on board with that, you can do that. All right. So what's next? There's a couple more questions to answer, I think. The environmental allergies one. Yeah. So there's a few things to think about with the remote thing. Yes, I do it. You can book online and then we'll have a conversation by Zoom, sort of like this, but it'll just be you and me, not you, me, and the rest of the world. And then I can advise you on, there's been a few patients where I've advised them on acupuncture points to use, like that their acupuncturist is then going to do on them. It's not my intention to kind of step on another practitioner's toes, but there are some self-treatments you could maybe use, like moxibustion or things like that. Possibly you could learn how to use that yourself. If there's no Chinese medicine available, as in you have to, I can post herbs to most countries now, but you have to be aware of the customs coming into your country for Chinese medicines. So that can be a problem. You just don't know until you have something posted to you. Like it's definitely much harder to get stuff into Australia than it is to send it out of Australia. But you need to be aware of that. So either you have to take the risk that we post the herbs out and they could be seized by customs because they're just not sure what the products are. They might have a duty or something like that. So you might want to check with that first, but I can post them out to people. And the cost of postage isn't as exorbitant as it used to be. It's not that expensive. So usually what I do is post people a month's worth of herbs at a time, and we go by that way, and that's possible. If you're in the US, posting herbs is fine. It's usually okay. But that's a risk you have to bear if you're going to go about Chinese medicine with me. And there are some countries where you can get your herbs that I can prescribe them and they can make them up and send them to you that way. That's possible as well in some places. So yeah. All right. So welcome, Miriam. Thanks for your question, and sorry it's taken so long to answer it. If you've had to jump off the stream and you're watching this later, hopefully you'll get the answer. What's the cause of environmental allergies? So in Chinese medicine, which is what we focus on in the channel, There's only 3 ways you can get sick. And one of the ways that you get sick in this way is an intolerance, like between your bodies. It's an inability of your body to cope with the outside environment. Now, that might be because the outside environment's so strong and so toxic, or your body is so weak or weaker and not able to cope. So why do some people get allergies and not others, right? So let's say I released a toxic gas in here and I was like, and released the gas. Everyone in this room's going to, like, it's like releasing the toxic fly spray. All the flies die, right? Not some, the stronger ones we hope don't, stay there, but that's possible, right? So every day you're encountering toxins out in the environment. And why sometimes we develop those issues to those toxins. And this can also be an explanation as to, well, can I get better from this allergy? Like, well, am I always going to have to battle this? Am I always going to have this? So what we would do in Chinese medicine is look for what weaknesses your body might have. So what pattern of disharmony, like it's super duper broad now. Like, it's not like I can say, oh, you have a blood deficiency, so therefore you have allergies. It could be lots of things. It could be just general yang deficiency. You could have, like, it's not really a Chinese medicine thing to say, oh, you've been exposed to that thing, so now you've developed an allergy because of that previous exposure or things like that. We're just looking at what is that pattern of disharmony. So do you have a weak spleen and stomach that in that way, when the toxins come into your body, are you able to, like, digest, let's say, like, part of digestion is you ascend the clear and you descend the turbid. So there's some aspect of that in just environmental stuff. Your lungs is the first organ that's associated with toxins because it's your lungs control your skin, right? And also blood nourishes your skin. So if blood's strong or blood's not weak, you don't need blood tonification, let's say, then you're not blood deficient, then your skin is generally good. Your skin's generally strong, resilient. But your lung energy also relates to your skin. So opening and closing of pores, releasing that sort of stuff. So it could be a weakness of metal element of the lungs when people have skin problems regularly. Yeah, so that's the... Oh, can I refresh the video? What's the... Oh, I'm not sure what to do there. How do I do this? With Alt F4. Yep, looking at... I don't have an Alt because I've got a Mac. Might be Command. It's going to end soon now. Oh, Command W. Thanks. All right. Did that work? I thought I deleted the whole stream. My whole StreamYard went down and came back again. Okay. Oh, it's a prank. Thank you. Thanks for fucking me over. I'm not going to be doing this stuff anymore. Okay, all right. You're not going to be allowed back on the stream. Yeah. Okay. We are going to have to finish this soon because I have to get on a proper call soon. Is that what you just go around doing on people's live streams? You just go around and I won't be listening to any. That's what you do. You just go around trying to win friends and influence people. Okay, I won't be doing that anymore. At least I've learned my lesson. I was like, what the fuck? I've deleted everyone. Okay. So, all right. I really do have to. Thanks. Bye-bye. You won't be welcome back here. Oh, look, I can take a joke, so it's fine. Yang deficiency. Yeah, it does sound very broad. Yeah, there's lots of things that are broad. But there's also, this is why you need a practitioner for some things, for most things, because it comes down to your pulse. So they're going to be able to feel that in your pulse, what kind of deficiency you have, where the deficiency is. Like the 3 positions on each wrist kind of relate to the different, the different elements of Chinese medicine. So, all right, we're going to be finishing in a sec. We're going to be finishing now. Okay, so... Right. Is there an 8-step diagnosis system including internal and external possible problems? So I think you might be referring to the internal, external, yin, yang, hot, cold, full and empty, deficiency and excess. The eight principles, right? So not so much like a step thing. But so a condition can be, it's either going to be deficient or excess, or it can be a combination of those things. So you can have a patient that's got some deficiency, and that's what we were kind of talking about before, where you might have like a blood deficiency, and they've got a Xiaoyang flare. They've got, liver qi stagnation and a blood deficiency. So in that 8-step principle pattern, you'd say, yeah, they have deficiency and they have excess. And then the practitioner decides, very similar to like that Ben and Biao example, like we decide what are we going to treat first. One of the reasons I like the classical system is they have a very clear step-by-step thing of like, you have to treat the yang things before you treat the yin things. So it means you treat any of these, like what in TCM they call these excesses. They're not really excesses, but in the classical sense, we wouldn't think of them as excesses. We'd think of them as like some kind of deficiency of yang, but you're just not really that yang deficient. It's complicated. We're going to end the stream soon. I really appreciate you being appreciative. I appreciate you listening, and I'd love to have people's feedback. Go onto my course page and, yeah, let me know if you're interested in it. If you want to send me an email or something, I just realized I don't think I have an email on there, but yeah, you can send me an email about it, or yeah, let me know if you're interested in it, or obviously just you can enroll in the course if you want to just enroll in it. I'm going to start the course in November this year, and it'll roll on, and there'll be other opportunities to enroll in them later on. Just quickly, this question, someone says, Marie, what countries in Europe is Chinese herbal medicine available? If you want to get in contact with, there's lots of people who practice ICEAM, the classical system I do, in Europe. There are quite a few practitioners. So I know someone who's in Iceland even, I think Iceland, yeah. I'm not sure about the legalities of shipping herbs into those countries, because there's so many countries and there's lots of different regulations. But there are quite a lot of herbalists in there. Chinese herbs are very popular in Germany, and I think there was even like a Chinese medicine hospital in Germany at one point. So yeah. All right. So I'm just going to end it there. Thanks everyone for your attention. Thanks for your streams. Yeah. Thanks for your attention and your watching and your interest in Chinese medicine. And yeah, if you want to pop your comments into a video, your questions for other streams or things like that, do that. Go and check out my course. I've put the link there somewhere in the links in the descriptions. In the comments, I've put the link of the new course that I'm doing, and you can check that out and have a think about whether that's something that you'd like to do, to kind of take a step-by-step approach at learning Chinese medicine for yourself. And it's 3 hours every week that you would be able to, just, get involved in your own self-learning. And so there'll be foundational concepts of Chinese medicine, there'll be Chinese dietary therapy, and then there'll be self-healing with Chinese medicine stuff. So preventative medicine, self-treatment. So in that course, we'll talk all about things like acupuncture points, how to approach pain with acupuncture, and self-massage, and also how to massage other people that you might be around, like your pets, or your partner, like how to use acupressure for those kinds of situations. Headaches, like there's just lots of things you can manage. Back pain, you might be waiting to see a practitioner or waiting to go, to the hospital even with extreme pain. Well, there's acupressure points you can use in those emergency situations. Like, what about nausea? Like you feel sick. There's just so many applications. So this is more like the lifestyle things, the preventative lifestyle stuff. In the self-treatment ones, in the diet therapy class, I'm going to talk about like things like diet for longevity, medicinal wines, using herbs in your foods, cooking with them, the properties of all different foods. And it's super interesting. And if you are interested in studying Chinese medicine, this information won't change. Like Chinese medicine never changes. It's always going to be the same. And so it's always relevant. So if you might do this and then maybe in a few years' time you think, I want to go to Chinese medicine school and learn stuff, this stuff won't be wasted. You'll already have a good foundation of kind of understanding what it's about. And so you'll be steps ahead of, the rest of the class in that way, certainly for the understanding of how to think about the world in a Chinese medicine way, because that's how it starts. It starts with those, it's very observational and that kind of stuff. So cool. Awesome. I'll see you again on another stream soon. Thank you so much for your attention. And I could talk on forever, but I do have to stop at some point. And I'm sure that it's nighttime for lots of people. That's probably their bedtime now. So have a great weekend when it comes, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.